After all these years, there's a species which has turned up here on this larch. The diligent eye looks for on Warsop Main pit top here for many years, never found it. It's a Coleophora. It's Coleophora laricella. I always like it and take a great deal of enjoyment from finding a particular species that you've been looking for on a local patch or on a regularly visited site, and it turns up after many years searching. And indeed, in the case, literally, of Coleophora laricella here, this is a species that Dennis and I looked for many years. Never found it, despite the great amount of larch which has been planted on this former pit top site. And what's interesting is that I've looked for it for every year since I've been coming here on this particular larch too. And indeed, this larch was a larch that I featured a couple of years ago when finding the larval feeding signs and the frass that was being chucked out of these developing larch cones by the larva of Directria abitella. And now the same small larch has provided a new species for this site. I'll try and keep this as steady as possible. I'm having to pull this particular branch or twig down a little bit, but there is the straw-coloured case of Coleophora laricella. This one is particularly fresh looking, to be honest. They're often a lot duller and dirtier looking than this particular case. This one stands out, and they overwinter right at the side of the unopened buds. They're very easy to rear as well. If you do go out looking for these and find them, then you can get them through to adult in no time at all. This case is about 5mm in length. Nothing particular exciting about it, but you can see the head end is the end that's attached to that bud there. It's the fact that it's a new species for this site and has come after many years of looking. Now here's a closer view of this case. I say it is extremely fresh. Of all the laricella cases that I've found, and it is an easy Coleophora to look for. It's the only one that feeds on larch, and the cases are fairly obvious. They're always tucked up tightly against the bud, occasionally at the joint, but usually very close to buds like these. It's just taken me by surprise, but it's a pleasant surprise, a very pleasant surprise. I didn't think today I would find anything to film, but this is a common Coleophora, more common than what people will probably think, and you could probably go to most isolated larch, have a look for this on the lower branches or the branches within reach, and probably find it within a few minutes. And certainly if you go into larch woodland or parkland, perhaps, this species is common in a group of larches on Woodthorpe Park in Nottingham, you can probably find it very easily. Very plain straw coloured case. Say some can be dirtier than this, some can almost be the colour of the twig itself. But this one is nice and obvious. In Nottinghamshire, the distribution of Coleophora laricella is purely governed by the availability of its food plant, and there are many sites in Nottinghamshire that hold larch that haven't been checked for this species, and yet this species will occur there, there's no doubt. So you don't have to go into woodland for this. You can go to your local park. Most parks have an example or several examples of larch. Spend 5 or 10 minutes looking on the lower branches, and you may well add yourself a new species to your local park or your local site. Something that you can do while we wait for these needles to open. And I'm not going to wait for these needles to open because we're still a couple of months off yet, but this larva is in this case waiting for that exact same thing. I was just glancing around this larch, and there's another larval case. This one is tucked into where the bud should be. At some time that bud has been removed, and tucked up inside there is another case of Coleophora laricella. Sometimes these things don't always jump out at you, and something 4 or 5 millimeters is unlikely to jump out at you, but once you've got your eye in, you can often surprisingly easily find these small things. And this is a very different case really. It's a much lighter colour. This is the kind of colour that I expect Coleophora laricella cases to be. Nice to know it's obviously doing very well here, after having arrived at some time in the last year or two, no doubt. Marvellous.